Thank you for joining us. We have 3 teachers joining us now from Otay Elementary. So we just watched the teacher collaboration. How do you decide what learning goals you're going to focus on in a particular collaboration? Where do you start?
Where are you guys looking at me? Well, we kind of 2 things. Whatever we're working on as, like right now we're working on fractions, getting ready to multiply and divide, so that's what's next. And then also we look at our data. We're pretty data driven. So if we're having a struggle area, on our first benchmark test we had the questions, the new Common Core questioning, which our kids kind of struggled with, we struggled with. So that's a lot of our focus right now is, okay, how do we get them ready for that Common Core type of questioning? That's not how we've taught as much, in the past. So I think that's a lot of it. So those are the 2 key factors.
So I was going to ask how the Common Core is a part of the process. So are you gradually putting Common Core questions in the assessment? How is the Common Core part of this?
We're gradually easing into it.
Yes, we are.
I guess, gradually easing into it.
Yeah. We've been had some trainings over the last couple years.
Staff
development, and then really, this year, really going into it with math in particular. So, we're really, trying to transition as seamlessly as possible, but it's not very seamless, it feels like. It's a struggle. Yeah. It's a struggle for the teachers. And it's definitely a stress for students. So,
so I think that's kind of why we emphasize more of the explaining, a lot of the explaining of how you have the answers, because that's pretty much how they have to answer during the Common Core assessment. So we're really not panicking, but want to get there, because that's how they're going to respond to their math problems.
Okay. So when we see you work together, it's pretty clear that good collaboration takes skill. It's not simply teachers coming together chatting.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you learned how to do this?
I think
you dropped me in, so.
Our Common Core, the urgency of what we need to do, and we cannot do it individually or broken up.
Right.
We need to do it as a team.
Yeah.
And discovered bouncing good ideas off of each other. That's the only way we improve. Is not on our own.
Right. And then over the last several years in our ILTs, we've done a lot of training in coaching and questioning, and so I think the combination in the school, we've just had a lot of that over the years. And, I mean, it's just the type of school that we are. I mean, that's what we do here.
Well, I know that productive group work is a part of what you're doing with the kids. And so what we're seeing is
we do our own productive group work,
Exactly.
at the adult level.
Exactly.
And so you've had some professional development that helps you be able to do that.
Right.
And that's provided through the district, or at the district?
No, it's at our school mostly. It's through the schools.
And the whole staff?
And the cohorts.
Okay.
Whole staff.
Okay. So if you were offering guidance to a school wanting to pursue this process, what are the non-negotiables that need to be in place in order to make this work?
Common goal.
Right.
Non-negotiable. That's what we're trying to achieve.
And a commitment to the time that it takes.
Exactly.
I mean, we as a grade meet, and I think most of the grades in the school meet after school at least one day a week to discuss, next week, what are we going to do, how are we going to do it. But we are all committed to giving that amount of time. And then we have our collaboration time once every 2 weeks about. And it's a commitment that the school has made, that the admin has made, that we will keep that as a sovereign. I mean, that's not negotiable. That's a non-negotiable.
We have to do
We
that
have to have that
to achieve our
time.
goal.
So that's huge.
That commitment.
And and that common goal of student success, whatever it takes.
What role does the principal play in the process?
he's
here?
he's very much he's very supportive of the work we do, and he's very much supportive of the collaboration process and the productive group work process, and with the students and with us as well. So I think that's huge.
And I think if his time allows, he would be sitting with us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he comes in
during
pretty much
our
every
collab
time.
time, and he's
Right.
he gives input, and we're comfortable with that because that's
That's the
as
norm.
part of our team,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
part
yeah.
of our team as well.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
And
that
it's
sitting there
never
giving
critical.
input to what we need to do or during our
Right.
lessons or so on, it's just that's part of the whole deal.
Right.
So.
And then a lot of our staff development is professional development. So really a commitment to developing the staff as teachers. And that's huge. A lot of schools don't have that in there.
And what role does the coach play in the process? And does, because there are a lot of schools that don't have the luxury of a coach.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe you could talk a little bit about the role the coach plays and whether you actually need to have a coach to do this, or how a school that doesn't have a coach might be able to accomplish what you do.
I think they definitely facilitate what happens. They're sort of the guidance and the leader of the collaboration time, keeping us accountable to what we set out to do and our goals.
Kind of the middleman
And then,
of what we need to do, and break it down in teacher-friendly language, so it's coming down from somewhere where these guys can go ahead and transfer that information to us and help us and guide us in how to and direct us on how to do that.
right.
with
They're
the
definitely a
kids.
support for us and a resource for us to use. Like, okay, like I'm always going to ask, okay, I don't know how to do this one, I don't get this. And, I have that person to go to that's right here on our site, But I know a lot of schools don't have that, and I think in those types of schools there has to be somebody who becomes the expert in that,
Yeah.
somebody who can be the resource, a teacher that's, okay, this is my strength, math is my thing, I will be that math resource or
Like
that
go-to
language
person.
arts person. There has to be a go-to
Or
person. no
That's
matter
a
what. I
good
think
question.
there has
I'll
to be.
look it up or do the research.
Right, there has to be somebody somewhere that has that, that you have as a resource. It's
Because what
huge.
I saw today looked like a very well-planned, almost lesson that your coach put thought into.
Right.
What are the,
Right.
what are my visuals, what are my objectives, and that requires time.
Exactly.
And somebody's,
Oh, yeah.
And again, that
Deliberate
commitment,
focus.
right, and strength, not all of us are math people or, that's not their strength, so there has to be that.
Let's talk about takeaways from today's session. To what extent is what you did today something that's going to influence what you do tomorrow or the next day in the classroom?
So applicable. Every
So let's be specific in terms of what you talked about today.
Well, we are getting ready to start fractions, multiplying with fractions. So what we did today, we will take, and the charts that we've made and the word problems that we used, those we'll implement right away. I mean, we're going to put those in there. Some of the ideas that we bounced around, some ideas for us to improve the written pieces that we're trying to get the kids. The language frames on the walls. Okay, we're going to put those up there with the charts. I loved that idea because, we have the charts, but they look at them, but it's like, okay, I see what I'm
How do I
supposed to do,
turn
but how
this
do I
into
use
language?
this? How do I turn it into my language that I need? So I think that's going to be a really great thing for me.
Yeah, I know just even looking at the different resources of a Lesh map versus a data sheet and learning, okay, some of my students are going to do really well with a data sheet and they need more of that step-by-step process of how to fill that out for thinking through their math problems. But some of my students are a little more advanced and they're going to need to be able to do a Lesh map because that's more intuitive and they just sort of know how to do that. And so already putting that into place, okay, during my universal access time when we break into groups, there's going to be maybe a higher group that only does the Lesh map for that time, and there's going to be a smaller group that does the data sheet that they can work together in. And so just even seeing, okay, this is how it's going to affect my students, directly being differentiated in the classroom.
Yeah, alongside that scaffolding point that we brought up with the sentence frames and the Lesh mats and the actual data sheet. I mean, for me, it was there, but to talk about it and discuss it and like realizing, oh, okay, this will be differentiated for my students, as well as remembering one of the strategies to multiply fractions that Krista reminded me. I knew it, it's there.
Right.
I have the items to actually show it the kids how to do it, but you know, this bouncing information back on and off each other just kind of gets the cobwebs out of some certain areas.
Because it's been a year since we taught it.
Yeah. And we wouldn't have figured out differentiation by ourselves, or you know, using the
conversation.
language
That conversation's huge.
Conversation's so necessary.
So how do you hold each other accountable for applying the work from the sessions? Is that a piece
Well,
of
we
the
definitely have
process?
conversation outside the classroom
Right.
on a daily basis. I think we're all comfortable saying, hey, this is working for me. How's it working for you guys? Or, oh, that did not work. How can I make it better?
Or did you do
Pretty
that?
Yeah, did you do that?
The minimal
Very
time we
simple.
have, either through like in between recess time or whatever, comparing notes, discussing what worked, what didn't work, what do you think, what can I do differently, and that open line of communication is, you know, once again, that's a huge part. You gotta talk.
And
You gotta listen.
one of the things I saw was that you did want to have consensus that you were all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
In
Well,
our,
yeah.
So that's
Yes.
maybe a non-negotiable. and
exactly. It's
whatever-
definitely, for our grade especially, I mean, that's just how our grade runs. What one does, we're all doing. So our kids are all pretty much getting the same thing. You know, when he had his little journal thing with, wait, you didn't share that, you know, I mean, we expect that from each other, and we kind of get on each other if, hey, you didn't share, or what do you have that I don't have? I mean, we're constantly working together as a team. We work well as a team, and
because
that's
honestly, you
huge.
two are stronger than I'm newer, and so I need that support also of just, okay, I can't just make this up and expect automatic success for my students. I have to adopt what they're doing because they've done it and it's shown to work. And so, but I think our team also completely fosters our own idea, our own processing, but we definitely need to bounce it off otherwise.
So when you come back together now, in the collaborative, will you then talk about how what you did here happened in the classrooms? Is that a part of the process?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like tomorrow, Thursday afternoons
Yes.
is when we meet. So we will, as a grade, so we'll end up saying, okay, how did that work for you? Did you guys do that yet? Have you, you know, that didn't work for me because, okay, I don't get this part, or, you know, so we'll do a lot of that in our after school time of collaboration. So we definitely do a lot of that.
And
And
what
it
about,
fosters more questions
Right,
than that we can
right.
bounce off of Wes.
And then
or
the
anybody
pacing
else.
of it, and
Yeah.
and is the coach coming into classrooms as
No.
well?
not in the
No.
afternoon.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So last question, because I know you're going to have your, so we know that the student achievement has improved at the school. What part of the collaborative work might you attribute to that success?
I think a huge part of it. We're all on the same page.
We're all
We
working
have the
together,
same goal, and we
Yeah.
work together. And
bring our kids up.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
That's what we do. That's what you got to do that. That's your
Yeah.
job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you, either of the, because you're a new teacher, have you worked in schools where this has not happened?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
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 You're like your own
Actually.
island. You're doing whatever you want to do, but then that kind of attributes to the fact that maybe an administrator's not coming around and visiting your classroom and seeing what you're doing. I mean, I know Mr. V comes in and, you know, well, during
Totally
our
observes
guided
everything,
reading
yeah.
time, he'll be seeing guided reading time. I mean, if someone's not doing that, then that's kind of a red flag. And you know, what are you doing, and how are you working with your team to really bring your kids up? I mean, you know, it's there in other schools, but that administration part of it, monitoring, making sure that, you know, working with us to make sure we're all on the same page, it helps a lot.
And I just think that consistency, you know, we have so much consistency in our grade and really in the school, and without that, I mean, it's just, you know, it's not going to be a cohesive piece, and I think that's what we really have. And that's made a huge difference for us. You know, when we have that data being brought to us, then we can discuss it as a whole and look at, okay, where are we weak, what are we weak in? So, okay, well, this is what we need help with. I mean, just that constant dialoguing, and I think that's huge.